and the jet bridge he swore was out of rotation. The calendar square arrived at 6:05 p.m., neat as a boarding pass. Airline Gala, Terminal C, late. 2 minutes later, Nolan texted, "Don't wait up." Ops asked me to peek at a gate issue after speeches. Proud of me. Read he spends the heart when the rest of the sentence would like diplomatic immunity. I turned the chili to the kind of simmer that calls itself maturity and looked across the river at the airport lights combing the low clouds. Terminal C glowed like a city that refused to learn humility. The square on my phone pulsed once and then did what good squares do, became background. I rinsed an already clean spoon because sometimes the only honest verb available is unnecessary. At 6:28 my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize and a message that recognized me anyway. If the gala, in the ballroom, why did he just badge the out-of-service jet bridge at C-18? Service door by the escalators. Reader hates witnesses, cover it with your hand and yank. I can hold the sweep 2 minutes. Signed with a single letter, D, as if the alphabet had leaned against a window and promised not to fog it. Diego runs nights on the concourse with the patience of a signal that refuses to be misread. He and Nolan trade competence in a dialect of ramp schedules and insurance liability. He and I have shared 2 cigarettes by the de-icing bay, and a laugh so sharp a security camera tried to learn timing. We have not touched. I remember not touching more clearly than some men remember vows. "Why tell me?" I wrote. "Because your calendar is polite and my logs aren't," he sent. Because he looked up before he swiped. People only look up at that door when they want oxygen. Because out of rotation is keep out, the way champagne is hydration. The escalators through the concourse passed me in neat slices. Duty-free perfume pretending to be virtue. Families rehearsing patience. Gate agents practicing authority with smiles that barely fit. The service door at C-18 blinked red until I palmed the eye and treated the handle like it owed me. It came, surprised to remember its job. The corridor beyond led to the equipment room that breathes air into airplanes and excuses out of men. It smelled like belt loaders, coffee, and weather that had been folded up for later. The jet bridge loomed ahead, a gray elbow joint with opinions. A placard declared out of rotation in a font that wanted authority and got compliance instead. A ground power unit hummed in the corner, the sound of patient electricity. Through the windows, the tarmac lay under night like metal trying to remember it was Earth. Inside the bridge, under a fluorescent that had learned compromise, Nolan stood with his jacket off and his shirt open, one button past credible, tie slung into his pocket like an alibi. Opposite him, resting 2 fingers on the handrail with the practiced entitlement of a man who considers gravity a concierge, was Lionel Beaumont, developer, airline board vice chair, a roomer with a private tail number. Lionel's hand hovered near Nolan's wrist without landing, because proximity photographs better than contact when you intend to invoice discretion. Out of rotation is welcoming, I said from the threshold. Nolan turned. For a beat the truth used his face like a window uncurtained. Then the public version of him returned to its mark and hit the light. "Cal," he said, "I how did." "Diego likes nouns," I said. "I like doors." Lionel delivered a benevolent smile as if he were tipping the sky. "We were reviewing egress," he said. "Donors appreciate the romance of infrastructure." "I prefer romance that doesn't come with a waiver," I said. Nolan moved 1 step toward me and let the aluminum take the second. "We were timing the new bridge clearance," he said. He wanted to hear the ramp with the door open. "Sound is persuasive," Lionel said. He opened his hands like parentheses generous enough to contain apology. 2 minutes, The sweep is punctual and I respect punctual. He drifted down toward the knuckle where the bridge meets the plain, which tonight was a mouth with no face, a rectangle of night and reflected fluorescent. As he passed, two fingers tapped Nolan's shoulder, punctuation, not possession. The handrail didn't bother to rattle. Nolan watched me the way men watch weather when they hope it will finally pick a side. I was going to text you, he said, lower now, using the register he keeps for mornings and the soft under my jaw. After, I wanted to know I could leave this room without letting it fix me. You wanted to be caught, I said, not punished, caught. He let a breath out that the bridge remembered. Yes. There is a temperature at which grammar resigns. I crossed the length between us and put my mouth on his because steel deserves honesty sometimes. He kissed back with the relief of a man who has been paying interest on restraint, compounded nightly. He tasted like Gala bourbon and the clean metallic air of plains about to mean it. My thumb found the hinge of his jaw and pressed. He made the small, involuntary sound I keep receipts for. His palm slid under my shirt and settled flat between my shoulder blades like a promise unwilling to be notarized. We didn't undress. The camera over the hatch liked to pretend it slept and the ground power unit preferred supervision. He broke the kiss first because he knows the exact second heat applies for narrative. He rested his forehead against mine. The bridge creaked once, like an old dog deciding we could pass. I didn't kiss him, he said. I wanted to want to. I texted Diego instead. You did, I said. He prefers oxygen to salvage. At the far end, Lionel tilted his head with the practiced curiosity of a man who knows where light comes from and expects it to behave. He didn't approach. Somewhere out on the ramp, a tug honked as if it had listened long enough. Come home, Nolan said. After I thanked the signal, I said. Diego waited just inside the service door, hands in his jacket pockets, radio on mute like a gentleman. He didn't smile. He also didn't make mercy expensive. Sweep hits the bridge in 90, he said. If you don't want to explain yourselves to a flashlight that knows your names, go down the baggage stairs and cut across the tug alley. The camera there believes every cart is a cart. You sent the message, I said. I opened a door, he said. You two remembered how to walk. We took the stairs that always smell like rubber and stories. Tug Alley hummed under sodium, lights the color of reasonable mistakes. The night had decided to be obedient. We came up near the rideshare pickup, where strangers pretend to recognize their own names. We walked the long way home because doorways gossip and sidewalks don't invoice. In our kitchen, the chili forgave me for letting it practice patience. We ate standing like mammals who know where the bowls live. He told me Lionel had been sculpting a compliment into a proposition for weeks, and he had helped because selection feels like love when usefulness has emptied your pockets. I told him Diego had texted because some men choose air over alibi. He didn't ask whether Diego and I had ever been a worse idea. I didn't describe the exact way the de-icing lights make Diego's mouth look like a boundary I could live within. Later in bed, we left a sliver of cool like a reservation and then let it surrender because the night had already spent too much of our restraint. He kissed me with the steadiness I have learned to trust more than policy. I put my mouth where his jaw goes humble and told it a morning. It was heat without theater. The building minded its radiators. Across the river, the airport kept its choreography and politely forgot our names. He fell asleep with his hand on my wrist, not as claim, not as proof, just counting the animal we've decided to keep. Morning behaved. Coffee made its case. The calendar square for tonight stayed blank, which in this town is the kink we can afford. Nalan tied a tie over a throat I intend to retire with patience and kissed me like the door already knew our names. He left to sell safety to people who love the word innovation because it allows them to forget gravity. At 9:12, a text arrived from a number saved as one letter. No bridge cam saw anything but empty aluminum. I looped a tire chalk training clip for 20. Consider it education. I sent, "You're very proud of your curriculum." He replied, "I'm proud of your exit." No punctuation correct. By noon, a travel blog posted a photo of Lionel shaking hands under a mural of optimistic planes with a caption about stewardship and scale. I scrolled past. It wasn't our room. At 1:30, Nalan texted a picture of our kitchen table with the plant we keep refusing to let die basking in a rectangle of honest sun. "Room exists," he wrote. The week pretended to run on time. Lionel sent a revised pledge with fewer adjectives and more commas. Nalan read to the part where the commas started behaving like a harness and set it face down. He pressed his forehead to my temple for a quiet 7 count and let the air be a room again. 2 nights later, the concourse hosted a family's behind-the-scenes hour. Honest badges, real children, a pilot answering questions with the courtesy of someone who remembers awe has payroll. We went together, because sometimes the correct grammar is plural. Diego nodded once from a service hatch like an usher who has already chosen a side. Lionel shook Nalan's hand while a photographer taught Terrazzo to glow. A reporter asked about legacy. Nalan gestured toward a ramp agent kneeling to tie a child's loose shoe and said, "Legacy is what keeps rooms gentle when you're sprinting." And the reporter wrote it down like she'd earned a truth. On the way home, we took the pedestrian bridge over the river where reflections pretend they belong. Nalan slipped 2 fingers into my back pocket in the way that says not mine but here, and the night decided to respect it. We oversalted dinner and ate it anyway. At the bedroom door, he kissed me the way good sentences land, without ornament, unavoidable. I answered as if verbs were the last honest currency. It did not stay tidy. It never does here. An anonymous account posted a grainy still from a bridge camera, 2 silhouettes in a gray elbow of light, one with a hand too near to be polite. The caption invented entanglement, the comments rented outrage and billed per breath. I put my phone down beside the plant and watched the plant win. Nalan texted me a different image. The jet bridge at noon, a tech on a ladder checking a seal while a ground power cable lay coiled like a patient promise. "Our version works for a living," he wrote. On Sunday, Diego texted, "Ramp's quiet. Want to sit where nobody sells you a seat?" We went. He poured us paper cups of coffee that tasted like competence and showed us which cones lie in crosswinds, why you never trust a door that apologizes, and the small cough a tug makes before it chooses violence. He did not flirt with anything, not even the truth. He stood with his hands in his jacket pockets and told us a joke about rich men who think timetables are metaphors. I liked him better for refusing to be necessary when he didn't need to be. The following week, the authorities staged a press event to introduce community tour of the annex. Nalan spoke first, about bolts and volunteers and the joy of maintenance, the only speech that ages correctly. Lionel promised to help the city remember how to arrive, a sentence that managed to spend nothing and still collect applause. After, he shook Nalan's hand and then looked at me with the careful respect of a man evaluating whether he cannot purchase. "You're both very good at exits," he said. "Practice," I said. He laughed because it was the only honest thing left on his card. A columnist with a talent for adjectives implied Nalan's influence came courtesy of Private Tour. The piece included a photo of a bridge that could have been any bridge and a paragraph that could have been any rumor. The comments did their choreography. I took the plant to the sink and let water speak to its roots like an apology we could afford. That night, we turned our phones face down and cooked like people who still believe heat tells the truth. Rain arrived midweek and stayed like family. On a wet Thursday, Diego sent a single word, weather, and we met him under the overhang by the shuttle stop where the gutter auditioned for percussion. He showed us which drain floods first, where to stand when lightning negotiates with jet fuel, and how to hear the faint stutter that means a switch is about to forget itself. He didn't ask about the photo. We didn't say his name out loud. 3 people wide under a lip of shelter. We let the storm edit sentences we didn't need. Life kept not being simple. Lionel kept sending commas that wanted homes. Nalin kept returning them with better ones. The plant kept inventing a shade of green that made vanity look domestic. We kept our calendar squares blank on purpose because blanks are the only promises rooms respect. Sometimes, after midnight, we walk past the ferry landing and watch planes stitch the sky in patient thread. Through the windows of Terminal C you can't see the out-of-rotation bridge, only glossy shops practicing conversation and a departure board pretending order is a virtue. That's as it should be. We circle back without letting the building perform at us. He takes my wrist like a man reteaching himself the grammar of doors. I think about the bridge and the 2 minutes that were enough, about how some rooms try to own you and others teach you to leave correctly. Sometimes I think about Lionel paused in the aluminum light like a man who wants to buy air and discovering it doesn't invoice. Sometimes I think about Diego's line, "I opened a door," and how it's the only biography I want for this version of us. Tonight's square is empty. We're leaving it that way. Let the terminal keep its announcements and the city its applause. We have the baggage stairs, a plant we refuse to let die, and the quiet grammar of a decision that knows where it belongs. Not in the rumor, not in the photo, but in the mouth that learned to say come home and mean it. If we get caught again, let it be by each other. The rest of the world can rehearse arrival. We'll be in the room that doesn't need it, counting breaths until they sound like engines idling for mercy, and calling that enough.